The crazy story of the man who wanted to be the first person to cross the Antarctica, but ended in one of the most insane survival missions in history. It's been a random quiet day in the year of 1914 when the legendary explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton woke up with one huge idea to be the first man to walk on the icy continent of Antarctica, a place no human had ever crossed before. He didn't think twice, gathered a team of 28 brave men, loaded supplies, and started sailing all the way south, starting from England on his ship called the Endurance. Their goal was to make history on the coldest and most dangerous continent on Earth, and after month of sailing through the freezing ocean, the men were also euphoric to make it. But as the temperature kept dropping more and more, and the world around them grew colder and quieter than expected, the crew began to realize that something was wrong, and the ocean started freezing. At first, it was just a few harmless ice pieces drifting by, but every day they became bigger, thicker, and heavier, until one morning everything changed, and a sudden collapse in temperature and the brutal shift of wind made the ocean suddenly stop moving completely. It wasn't even an ocean anymore. It was a giant white desert, a solid floor of ice stretching to the horizon, closing in around the Endurance from every direction, and the ship couldn't move at all. The men had no other chance and waited, hoping the ice would melt in a few weeks. But the weeks turned into months. They lived inside the frozen ship, cooking what little food they had, melting snow for water, playing cards and telling stories to pass the endless hours. And for 8 long months, they survived in the dark and cold, until finally the ice began to crack and the men thought they were saved. They slowly got ready and excited to continue their expedition, but all of a sudden, the breaking pressure of the ice crushed the hull of the ship, and the Endurance started sinking right in front of them. After all this time waiting, they had no other choice than grab all the life-saving things, fill them into a small lifeboat, and abandon the ship to get across the drifting ice with barely enough food, barely enough hope, and nothing but the freezing wind at their backs. They fought for weeks and months with no land in sight, and every day was a fight for survival. But after a long, brutal journey, they finally spotted solid ground, a tiny place called Elephant Island. They marched the whole island in hope to find human beings, but after some time, they had to realize that this place is so remote that not a single person lived there, and not a single ship will ever pass by. And so, Shackleton had to make the hardest decision of his life. He chose 5 men for one last try, took the small lifeboat, and started sailing straight into one of the deadliest oceans on Earth, towards the next island called South Georgia. They carried food for only 14 days. Either they reached land in that time, or they would simply die and disappear into the waves and let the remaining man starve on the lonely island. Storms, ice, and endless cold were pushing them to their limits, but after a few days of constant danger, they somehow actually reached South Georgia alive and in hope. But the only problem they didn't know, the whaling station, the only place with human being, was on the complete opposite side of the island. They gathered together again their last hope and energy, and the 6 men began the non-stop 36-hour climb across mountains, glaciers, and deadly ridges, with the knowledge that their food is almost over. They walked and walked, and after what felt like an eternity, they finally reached the station and saw other humans for the first time in almost 2 years. The moment they arrived, they felt something they thought was gone forever, the certainty that they would survive. The workers then immediately sent a rescue ship to save the remaining man on Elephant Island and brought them all on safe land. And every single man somehow survived the unimaginable, because through every storm and every frozen night, they never lost hope, while the rest of the world thought they were already